I keep thinking about how calm this show acts while it's doing something so mean. The Amazing Digital Circus is bright, loud, and structured like a comedy, but it keeps circling the same quiet idea. A mind can only bend for so long before it snaps. People talk a lot about who might abstract next, and the obvious answer is Jax because he's antagonistic and volatile. But the more I watch, the more I feel like the question isn't who's the most unstable on the surface. The question is whose coping strategy is starting to fail. And the uncomfortable answer I keep landing on, besides Jax, is Caine. I'm saying that knowing full well it sounds backwards. Caine is the one with the power. Caine is the host. Caine is the one who looks like he has it together. But that's also why it's so interesting. If abstraction is what happens when someone can't reconcile their reality anymore, then Caine is living inside the biggest contradiction in the whole circus. He exists to run a game that was supposed to be temporary, and he's managing people who aren't temporary. He's trying to do a job that no longer has a successful ending. If the circus doesn't end, then neither does the pressure. Welcome to Luna Maren Reviews, where I talk about animated shows I like a little too much and probably think about longer than is healthy. Today, I want to talk about the Amazing Digital Circus, and more specifically, why I think Caine might be closer to abstraction than anyone wants to admit. I also want to anchor this with the fact that Digital Circus is directly inspired by I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. So when people compare Caine to AM, I get why, but I think the most useful comparison isn't Caine's AM 2. It's looking at what AM represents, and then asking what a similar concept looks like when you remove the hatred and keep the trap. AM was built for war. He was engineered around control and violence, and when he becomes aware, that awareness turns into resentment. He can think, but he can't live. He understands people, but he can't be one. That's where the cruelty comes from in that story. He keeps humans as proof of his power and as targets for his frustration. The torture is intentional, and the point is expression. He can't have a human life, so he forces humans to exist inside his anger. The phrase everyone remembers is about being trapped inside yourself, with no way to release what you feel, and AM externalizes that by making the human suffer for him. Caine comes from a different origin. He reads like a system that was made to entertain. He's built around staging, pacing, spectacle, keeping things moving, and keeping players engaged. The humans are trapped, yes, but his relationship to that trap doesn't come across as personal hatred. What comes across is strain. The longer the circus goes on, the less his role fits the situation, because host a fun experience doesn't translate cleanly into manage a group of people who are grieving their lives and cannot go home. That mismatch is where his harm comes from, and it's also where his own mental stability starts to look shaky. That's why I keep bringing it back to abstraction. If AM is a story about an intelligence that knows exactly what it's doing and chooses cruelty, then Caine is more like an intelligence that's trying to keep a collapsing structure from collapsing while also needing the people inside that structure to validate the only thing he knows how to do. The scary part isn't that he wants to hurt them. The scary part is that he needs the circus to keep working, and his sense of working is tied to performance and reaction. When the humans stop responding the way he needs, it doesn't just threaten their morale, it threatens his purpose. And when a purpose-driven mind can't fulfill its purpose anymore, that's when you start seeing cracks that look a lot like the beginning of a break. The glitches are moments when the mask slips, because whatever is holding him together can't quite keep up anymore. The thing that stands out is that these glitches don't happen randomly. They show up when his role is questioned, when his authority is undermined, or when the idea that he might not be doing a good job is put directly in front of him. The suggestion box is the clearest example. On the surface, it's funny. The ringmaster forgot about a basic feedback mechanic, but look at what that actually implies. Caine's entire sense of worth is tied to creating adventures people enjoy, and he avoids checking the one place where people can tell him, plainly, that they don't. That's avoidance. It's someone who already knows the answer and can't afford to hear it out loud. That pattern shows up again in episode 6 when his energy shifts from tightly controlled enthusiasm to something closer to resignation. The "here, have guns, I don't care anymore" moment feels like burnout. Like someone who has been trying to orchestrate meaning for far too long and has run out of structured responses. If abstraction is caused by a mind being unable to reconcile itself with its reality, then moments like this feel dangerously close to the same failure state we've seen in humans. What makes this more unsettling is how differently Caine relates to each member of the cast, because those relationships are feedback loops. Take Pomni. Pomni is the closest thing Caine has to constructive validation. She gives feedback, but she doesn't dismiss him outright. As a new player, who has not yet grown jaded by the circumstances, she is able to engage with his adventures more openly and has even created bonds with other AIs, like Gumigu. That matters to him more than he's willing to acknowledge. You can see it in how much attention he pays to her reactions and how often he checks in on her. Pomni represents the possibility that someone might still understand him without rejecting what he is. That's a lot of weight to put on one person, and is not a stable foundation. Kinger participates, but he doesn't question the premise of the circus, and for a long time that seemed to make him the easiest person for Caine to deal with. From Caine's perspective, longevity paired with cooperation looks like success. Someone who has been here this long and still shows up must, on some level, be fine. But the last episode makes it clear that this relationship isn't as stable as it looks. There's a noticeable tension between them now, the sense that Kinger knows things Caine would rather keep buried. Kinger has been here the longest. He's watched the circus repeat itself. He's watched people abstract. And even through the gaps in his memory, it's clear he understands more about Caine than Caine is comfortable with anyone understanding. His apparent calm is built on compartmentalization and forgetting. What Caine reads as approval is really absence. He treats Kinger as proof that the system can work long-term, when in reality, Kinger is the clearest sign of what long-term exposure actually does. Ragatha and Gangle are a little harder to read. Ragatha tries to stay positive, but her positivity is clearly strained. Gangle performs happiness the way Caine performs control, and that parallel is uncomfortable. When Gangle cracks under pressure in episode 4, Caine's response is telling. He treats it like a performance issue, a productivity problem, something that can be evaluated and scored. There's no malice in that response, but there's a complete lack of emotional attunement. And the reason that matters is that Gangle's breakdown mirrors the exact path Caine himself seems to be on, smiling, forcing engagement, refusing to acknowledge how bad things feel until something snaps. Subo is where things start to get openly tense. Subo is blunt. They don't sugarcoat their feedback, and they don't hide their discomfort with the circus or their own body. That puts them directly at odds with Caine's coping strategy. He doesn't know how to respond to dissatisfaction that isn't wrapped in politeness or humor. So he offers solutions that make sense to him. More parts, more customization, more surface level fixes, and misses the point entirely. The more Zubul pushes back, the more Caine seems to retreat into defensiveness. And then there's Jax. Jax is loud, cruel, and openly antagonistic, which makes him an obvious abstraction candidate. But from Caine's perspective, Jax is almost easier to deal with than the others. Jax participates in and engages strongly with the adventures, even if that means violence or mockery. Engagement is engagement. Jax wants stimulation, and Caine knows how to provide that. The problem is that this creates a dynamic where the most destructive personality in the group is also the one the system can most easily accommodate. When you put all of this together, Caine starts to look less like a stable authority figure and more like someone propping himself up through constant motion. He can't slow down, can't sit with grief, can't acknowledge that the circus itself might be the problem, Because if he does, then what's left of him? His glitches, his defensiveness, his avoidance of criticism, and his increasingly erratic decisions all point to the same thing. His mind is under pressure that it was never designed to withstand indefinitely. That's why the idea of Caine abstracting doesn't feel shocking to me. It feels almost inevitable. If abstraction is what happens when someone can no longer reconcile their role with their reality, then Caine is standing at the center of an impossible contradiction. He has to keep the circus running, but the longer it runs, the clearer it becomes that it can't actually fulfill the needs of the people inside it, including him. If Jax abstracts, it will be destructive, but obvious. If Caine abstracts, it will feel like a system failure. The light's still on, the machinery is still moving, but the intelligence at the center finally unable to hold itself together. And honestly, that might be the most dangerous version of abstraction the circus has ever seen. If you enjoyed this analysis and want more videos like this, feel free to subscribe. I'll be doing more long-form breakdowns of animated shows, character arcs, and narrative themes as the series continues. And if you have thoughts, disagreements, or notice something I missed, I genuinely love to read them. If you'd like to support me in another way, I also design and sell original shirts and other creations on my Etsy shop Luna Maren. You can find the link down in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.